Before we go into the solution, I would like to find out if the solution that you have arrived is it looking at the problem through a Republican lens or a Democratic lens?
Well, when you look at Republicans right now, the presidential candidates, they're all talking about restructuring the tax, simplifying the tax. They want to cut the corporate tax. And in the Democrats are talking about increasing the minimum wage, but nobody's talking about capital. The importance of owning capital. For example, you look at presidential candidate Donald Trump. He started with $2 million, but he's a multi-billionaire. And you don't expect him to, he's not punching a clock 9 to 5 to make his income. His capital, his investments, and real estate and the stocks and bonds, they're working. And the labor, in a 24-hour day, you probably can work 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. But capital works 24 hours a day, and it is growing tremendously. And that's what is going to make a difference.
Excellent. Now that you used a very good model, which is the model in Silicon Valley, so you have arrived at this solution based on that model, or what exactly this model is?
Well, there is a ESOP, National ESOP Association, Employee Stock Ownership Plan, the association, and there is also National Council on Employment Opportunity. There is another organization. There are a lot of non-profits are looking at this thing. And whether you look at Microsoft, you look at Google, and you look at Cisco, or even food companies like Publix Corporation, all these things are offering employees ownership. And the companies, the data shows that the companies that offer employee ownership, they have less amount of layoffs. That means this is one solution to reduce the unemployment, because a lot of the times people talk about unemployment, how do you solve the unemployment, high unemployment rates. And also this is an opportunity for increasing entrepreneurship. And sometimes large corporations like Google, they allow entrepreneurship inside the companies called intrapreneurship. Mm-hmm. And these are some of the ideas that can come forward. And one of the surveys recently on millennials, they are saying that, look, we are tired of working for somebody, making somebody else rich. Let's work for ourselves. Let's make us rich. And this is it's a nice concept. But I think if we can make it a broad-based ownership and inclusive capitalism, that can allow employees, in addition to the wages, they can also earn capital, which will grow. And if they are moving from one company or another company, they can take the capital towards their retirement, and so they can grow. And I give you my personal example. I worked for AT&T Bell Labs for 18 years, and I was able to get the stock option plan from AT&T, where there was a matching $2, for every dollar I was putting, they were giving $2 matching, and I was able to amass enough stocks, and so that then I was able to retire at the age of 48 from the private sector. I went into the public sector, and public sector, you don't make a whole lot of money. But I think the idea here is that having that kind of wealth, accumulated wealth, it was not no comparison to Donald Trump, but I think it gave me the confidence that I can go out and do something public good. That's how I got into public office, because of the ability to have some ownership in stocks, and owning capital helped me.
Excellent. Now, when we come to this, we already see that some of the companies are already using this ESOPs model. So what needs to be done so that it can be applied broad-based across the country?
Yeah, this idea was supported by President Ronald Reagan, who is a darling of the Republicans, and also the Senator Longworth. And so there is the interesting thing here is that there was a law which was unfortunately discontinued by President Bush and President Clinton. It was the banks were giving loans to companies, private companies, to set up ESOP plan, and they were giving them interest loan, and the income, interest income that is coming from that investment, they were able to get 50% write-off. And that law changed because there were some flaws in the law, and they instead of fixing it, they just took it out. What we are suggesting is that 35% tax rate is very high, corporate tax, and if you can cut the tax by 50%, and because a lot of the corporations, they have found ways, and either they pay zero or near zero taxes, international corporations, and they found a way because of the loopholes in the tax system. What we're saying that cut the taxes to 50% tax rate, and give tax credits. Only the condition, only condition that they share the tax credits that they are getting with their employees. So that way we are able to create more employees to have capital ownership, and so that way we can create capitalists that way. And in urban areas and rural areas where the unemployment rates are very high, and if you look at some of the urban areas, youth unemployment rate is at 50%, and so if you cut the corporate tax at 100%, if only with the condition that money is invested to give, not only creating the jobs and give the ownership to the employees. So those are the ideas, rather radical, but I think it's a movement that we have to advance, so that way we cannot keep talking about the same old ideas, cut the taxes and corporate taxes and it'll trickle down. It's not trickling down. And we increase the minimum wage. We've been doing that. That has not closed the gap. So we are suggesting an alternate way. It has worked for 10,000 companies. 15 million Americans are already benefiting on that. So why not make it available to 150 million Americans and maybe 100,000 companies? I think that's the idea we are promoting.
So, coming back to the initial question, right? This solution is supposed to resolve the growing gap between the rich and the poor. So, how exactly? Now, right now, only I think as you just mentioned, about 10 to 15 million are being benefited. So, what should be done so that the numbers that you have mentioned about 100 million or 150 million will get under the umbrella of the profit sharing?
Right.
What should be done either at the state level or at the federal level? What are the things that you think?
First thing first, I wanted people to learn more about this thing. Some of the ideas, how the founding fathers thought about this idea. You go to our website, the thirdwaybook.com, THE3RD way, WAY book.com, and then read about some other things. Now, as I said earlier, that we have to eliminate the loopholes and give I guess you have to get the 50% tax cuts in the form of tax credits, with the condition that can only be used towards giving the ownership of 2 employees in addition to the wages. And also in urban areas, rural areas, poor areas, you get 100% corporate tax cut. That money can be used for giving to employee ownership. I think that's the idea. The third thing is that also trying to give interest tax credits for the banks, lending institutions. They will enable some of these companies to give the money, so that way the companies can set up employee savings options plan and figure out a way to do the leveraging of the ESOPs.
Now, ESOPs, how is it totally different from the 401k plans and other things that the companies offer in order to retain customers?
Now, 401k plan is basically a tax structure. So because it's the money you are contributing that you are not taxing. It's a deferred tax. You are not taxing at the current tax rate. Only when you withdraw at the age of 62 or 65, depending on the tax rate at that age, what your income and your tax rate, it automatically you pay the taxes at that time. It's basically a deferred tax thing. So this stocks ownership, you have to deposit somewhere. I think we are suggesting that the idea in the thirdwaybook.com is it's not going to solve the problem entirely. I mean, it's going to help bridge some of the gaps that are there, and also it's a long-term solution, because even if you own a stock, it takes 7 years for the stock to double in price, and then you have to accumulate so much of stock that will enable you to have retirement income. But this is like a lot of the times what happens is that just depending on only income, labor, based on the labor and the wages, now you have additional income. This is the second income that comes through capital, and that's what it's unique about this thing.